Hello, Cardano community. I'm here with my friends at Blitz TCG. We've met at Rare Evo last week, and I got pulled in when I heard self-funded. Can you tell the community about your project and a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. You want, and I'll introduce the
Yeah.
couple folks from my side on the call. So I'll start with me. My name's Mick. I am the founder for a small video game company called 16-Bit Hero TCG for going on 2 years now. On the line with me, I have Luca, and he is our smart contract developer on the Ergo blockchain for basically a card to token burn system. Luca, you're welcome to add any more to that if you want.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good introduction.
Cool.
Thanks.
Good. You're welcome. Yeah, and so Blitz sort of started as a passion project for me. I buy, collect, trade Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, card fight, Magic. Just recently got into One Piece, all sorts of trading cards. And I've played video games my entire life. Like the earliest pictures I have as a child is me on the, you know, Nintendo, original Nintendo, and Atari. I actually had Atari growing up too. Just playing games, man. So games have always been a big passion of mine. Actually, I almost quit my day job to play Overwatch professionally. If I was a little younger, I might have done that when that opportunity arose. But nonetheless, I had a bit more sense to me at that point. Anyways, so Blitz is sort of a culmination of my interest in technology, my interest in video games, and my interest in cards. And right behind me there, as folks will see, those are all graded Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So to answer the question, Blitz originally got its funding from basically my side business, which is buying and selling trading cards. So uh, I don't know. You can't really ask for much more of an expert on cards and card game development. Hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. We got Luca. How big is your team? I looked at your white paper. It looks like you got pretty big team. Can you tell me about how you guys came together?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. So originally, it was just me. Uh, I come from a background in IT, come from a background in engineering. I didn't have any programming experience, interestingly enough. I did some MATLAB. I did some like Arduino programming, but nothing substantial outside of that. But 2 years ago, uh, when I sort of had this idea for a more interesting card game, I just started teaching myself all of it. So I taught myself back end, front end, primarily C sharp. And Luca's trying to beat me over the head with the hammer every time we talk to get me to understand Ergo's script, which is the language the smart contracts are written in. But anyways, so a couple of years back, started with just me. The first team member I onboarded was a concept artist and then a UI artist. Because as I was trying to figure my way through the Unity game engine, which is platform the game is designed in, I wanted to start having sort of mock-ups for all the different things I wanted, and I was trying to crystallize the vision for the game. And it helps to have visuals for that. Some people often say, don't start with visuals, like don't start with characters. When you're designing a game, uh, I don't think for everybody that's helpful. I think for a lot of people like myself, I need to see stuff before it becomes real for me. So it actually helped me program too, just by having things I could play around with. Like it encouraged me to do the programming. So the short of it is I started with a concept or a couple concept artists. I've reached out on SoundCloud to Clarence Yap, who is the director of lab at MIT. He just also happens to do composing on the side. So I became friends with Clarence, and Clarence has composed all the sound for us. I have a website developer who develops in Angular, and he's doing some cool stuff on that front. Our website, I'm very happy with our website so far. He's done some really cool things. It's like a retro style website. Like if you ever played Gwent, or those types of card games, it'll remind you a lot of their website. And then finally, I have about 13 different artists on the team. So um, these artists, interestingly enough, I did a competition. So I went to Reddit and I said, I'm developing a video game. I need 5 artists. And if you send me your portfolio, I'll put you in the running. And then I'm going to ask the top 10 to draw one of my characters. So I got my concept artist to sort of work up a character. And I said, the person who draws this character the best, or the 5 people who draw this character the best, I should say, are going to get a spot to develop the rest of the cards. And I got over 250 portfolios to look at. Yeah, yeah, and they still come in to this day. They still come in because people see what we're working on and they're like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. And then they go in and they look at our art and then they ask if they can join the team. And I can actually show you. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so this is like, this is like one of our first, let me get rid of this. This is like one of our first characters that was developed. So this is how you sort of get an idea for what you want. I'm skipping some of the pre-work and like, here's her weapon here. There's a lot of stuff, behind the scenes that go into this. And so when I reach out to these artists and I say, hey, you know, this is the character I want you to draw, what they come back to me with is I'll show you a few of the submissions. So, these are all people who drew this character called Margot. And some are certainly better than others. All different styles, right? This person, Levi, they're on the team now. But all sorts of stuff, right? Some people did sketches of action shots and stuff like that. This is Abner. He's also on the team now. But just tons and tons of different art, right? So I basically reviewed 10 of these submissions and I picked the top submissions that I personally liked for the game. And then from there, I started just building the team. And the team built up, and eventually I figured out I couldn't complete the project on time unless I got more artists. So eventually the artists grew to a size of 13. And that's really where I'm at today, man. So the team's total about 23 people, all sort of ad hoc as needed, commission based, like no salaried individuals yet. I hope I'm able to do that once Blitz actually starts making money. But so far it's just all commission based.
Cool. So you guys, I know I saw the composer. He pretty much stuck out. He looks his bio read as a really smart guy. So you guys are around
yeah, he's cool.
the world, kind of. I think he's
in
UK. Cool.
Yeah. Folks on our team are pretty much everywhere. Yeah, we had one artist who was, well, actually our concept artist, Max, who's been on my team the longest. He's from the UK. Luca, you're Canada, is that right?
Yeah, I'm from Montreal.
Montreal. Yeah, Luca's in Montreal. You got folks from, Boston, just in the States. You got folks from Puerto Rico, Japan. We have one individual from Japan, all over the place, man. Yeah. All over the place.
I read the tokenomics, and I got to tell you, I didn't really understand too much of it other than the packs and stuff, because it's different. It's set up different than a typical DApp, maybe like a Dex or so. Can you explain it to me, because I could use some help there.
Yeah, I can walk you through the tokenomics, and I'll probably pull Luca in to talk about a little bit of the burn contract that he's working on. But the short of it is, first of all, take a step back and say, if folks really want to understand it, they're welcome to go to the YouTube channel or join the Discord and talk to me. I'll just give a high level sort of overview right now. So Blitz doesn't use NFTs. Most folks think they do, but many don't. So an NFT, a non-fungible token, it means it's effectively a one of one, right? So you could have, Super Monkey number 1 and Super Monkey number 2, and both of those monkeys could look like the exact same monkey, but their IDs are going to be different, right? That's an NFT, right? There's literally a number 1 identifier and a number 2 identifier for simplicity's sake. So that non-fungible token actually doesn't serve games having NFTs in video games. what you really want to have in video games is a way to track assets on the blockchain, right? And so what's an asset? Well, an asset can be a lot of different things. It could be the bullets that your gun shoots. It could be the armor that you collect. It could be your friends list. It could be anything. An asset's a very broad term. NFTs don't work well in video games. And
Okay,
even though,
I
my
got that.
1 minute spiel on that got cut out. Okay. Yeah, so NFTs don't work well in video games for many reasons. That you can just go prove to yourself via some research or, some video watching. But what would work well in a video game is the ability for players to keep their assets. And the reason that's important is because if Blizzard, for example, decides to shut down World of Warcraft and you've spent 400 hours playing World of Warcraft, you lose all your stuff no matter what, right? There, it's gone, it's wiped off the server. So the blockchain actually has a way to mitigate that if you use the technology correctly, right? So if you use the blockchain the way that it was meant to be used, which is really just a public database. I don't even really like the word ledger that much anymore. It just confuses people. Really, all it is a public database, is what it is, right? It's just a public database. So you need two things for the blockchain to be useful for a video game. And it is never going to be useful unless you have both. Your project needs to be open sourced, and you can't use NFTs. You have to use regular fungible tokens. And here's why. If your project's not open sourced, you are no different than Blizzard. Because even if you own your assets, it doesn't mean shit if you can't use them anywhere else. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares. I don't care if your project's on the blockchain at all. I think Luca is probably hopefully head nodding, because it's very frustrating to see so many people just stamp projects with the blockchain stamp just because it looks good. And in reality, it solves no problem. So the first thing you need to do is make sure the project's open source, especially a video game. That way, if Mick here, me, gets hit by a bus, you as a small-time developer could go spin up my source code and keep the game running. Or you can go make your own version of my game. I really don't care, right? You can do whatever you want because it's open source. But the idea would be that because you're using the same token references as that the players don't have to buy the same thing twice. So then they could start using their assets across games and across the blockchain landscape as a whole. So anyways, you have to have open source, and you can't use NFTs. You can't use NFTs because if you use NFTs, you create a barrier to entry, right? And you create this weird sort of, it's not even a competitive mindset. It's this egotistic mindset, right? I have monkey number 1, you have monkey number 10. Our monkeys are the same gameplay wise, but because I have because I have number 1, I'm the big dog. That makes no damn sense, dude. I literally could not care less about your damn monkey, dude. I literally do not care. So with Blitz and games that I think are going to be created on the blockchain that actually get industry adoption, they're going to use fungible tokens. So one Margot card, the character we looked at, is going to be the same no matter which Margot you get. Just if you open a pack of Pokemon cards and you get a Charizard, my next door neighbor could open a pack of Pokemons, get a Charizard. We could look at them side by side and we could just exchange them because they're the same thing. It's like exchanging $1 for $1, right? That's what I mean by asset. Is that you can just make that equivalent exchange without a worry of monetary weirdness or egotistic silliness coming into play. So anyways, that's a very long-winded way to say Blitz is both open sourced and using a token-based system. The other novel thing we're doing, which I hope to give Luca a chance to talk here, is solving one of the problems associated with card games, which again, if you're watching projects on the blockchain or you're invested, make sure you actually invested in projects solving real problems, because if you're not, you're making a mistake. That is not financial advice. That's just life advice in general. Don't invest in people not actually doing anything. So well, you might say, well, Mick, well, why do I care? Maybe I don't care if it's open source. Maybe I don't care if the project shuts down. Why else would I care? Well, you might care because the problems that physical cards have today is if I go to Walmart and I buy 1,000 packs of Pokemon cards and I open all of them, I'm probably only going to keep one card out of each pack, dude. And that's the holographic or the rare, right? It's the same ones that are on the wall right there. There's not a single card up there that's not a holographic. You know what happened to the rest of them? Either the garbage bin, the recycle bin, or like the basement in a box, right? Like they're just useless. And so with the card game, the other nice thing the blockchain lets you do is take all of your extra cards and basically burn them for some set value to receive a currency back that you could then use to just get rid of it for USD, or you could invest it into more packs. So it's almost like, you're not getting punished because you didn't draw all the cards that you wanted when you opened your pack. And I don't know, Luca, I'd love to hear your, like, maybe get into the technical weeds if that's okay with you, on some of the burn contract aspects.
The way it works is you would send your like you interact with the website, and you would send your card token to a proxy box, and this proxy box then interacts with the, like, I call it the bank box, which contains the Blitz tokens in it, and the contract then interacts with another box called the card value mapping box, which exists for every card token in the game, which associates the card ID with like a max value of Blitz tokens you can get, and based on like the value in that box for the specific token ID in the proxy box, the bank will then dispense the corresponding amount of Blitz tokens to you, like minus any fees for like the developers. And then it'll just burn the token that you had in the proxy box. And then there's this additional feature where over time, like at certain intervals, the max value of the card. So like if it's, let's say it's like I think right now it's based on the number of cards that are burned, right? So if like after 100 cards, for example, then which we account for in the box, the bank box, like there's like an accumulator, then we'll like split the max value by 2, and then it'll keep track of like this factor, and every like 100 cards it'll like multiply this, it'll like double this factor. So the next time it'll be 4, and then 8 and 16 and so on.
As you can tell, I have Luca on the call for one very specific reason. It's because he's damn smart, right? All right. So now that we've got that out the way, and I've proven his applicability to this conversation, let me repeat it back to you.
Okay.
In a way, right? So let me repeat that.
Sorry.
Back. No, it's good. It's good, Luca. That's good. I think the audience here, if I'm not mistaken, there probably will be some sort of technophiles on the line, right? Folks who are really into technology and like that sort of thing. So you probably just resonated with quite a few people. But for the folks who aren't that way, I'll dial it down a little bit. So effectively, when you open a pack of Blitz cards, you get 5 cards. Each of those are tokens, right? So if you get a Margot, let's just show. I always like showing real things, right? I think showing real things is always better for the majority of people. So like here's several cards from Blitz. This is from the Masquerade set. They're all like clown / jester based characters. So let's say you open a pack of cards, and just by chance you get these 5 characters right here. So you get 5 characters, you get 5 cards when you open a pack. But maybe you already have this one, you already have this one, you already have this one, you already have this one. This is the only new one. This is the only one you actually want in your deck. So you keep that one. So then you go to the website and you'll go to basically the burn page. You'll connect your wallet, which is honestly, I might even be able to show that if folks are interested in it. So like very simple. I was on the white paper just a moment ago. If I'll just show you. Like, you can go, this is live today. Like this isn't a demo or anything. You can just do this today. But it's, it says to display cards, please connect an Ergo wallet. Eventually that'll be Ergo, Cardano, or Nervos. I click connect, and that's it. We're done, right? Wallet's connected, and I'm displaying your tokens to you. These are just like mock-ups, but they are pointing to real tokens on the blockchain. But that's as easy as it gets, dude. That's like, and that's like, I don't know. I forget what Ergo token this is. Let's see. It's WT8. It's just some fungible token on the Ergo blockchain. And I pointed this card to that token for demonstration purposes. But that's all very real stuff. So anyways, like, let's say, let me get back to it. So let's say, again, you want to get rid of these 4 cards. Like Lucas said, you would come in, you would likely go to the market tab, which isn't live yet. You click into the market tab. There's going to be, sell, buy, burn. So you can sell it on the open marketplace if you want for Ergo, Cardano, CKB, Nervos, whatever. You can buy it. You can buy some cards if you want to buy some cards. But there's going to be a third tab that says burn. So maybe this card is worth a damn penny, dude. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to go through the process of putting this on the auction house. Like, that's super dumb. Nobody wants this token. Like, it happens with NFTs, ironically, a lot, right? There's like tons of NFTs out there that people just don't give a damn about. Nobody cares about. They will never be purchased ever again. Right? They're just useless. Right? Everybody does. I do, right? I was foolish enough to do some of that shit too. So, like, anyways, the short of it is you take this card that you're not going to sell to another player. You don't want to keep it in your blockchain wallet because it's useless to you. So you're going to go to the smart contract framework that Luca was describing, where it lets you queue up all these fungible tokens. You throw it against the bank. I love that he called it the bank. So the bank is just this like giant lockbox that nobody has access to. The only way that Blitz tokens ever come out of it is if you send it a legitimate Blitz card. So it's basically like this infinite bank of Blitz tokens that will give you tokens if you give it cards. And when you give it a card, the card's gone forever. So it's like, a legitimate card burn process. The unique thing that we're doing, which I have 2 PhD level economists in my Discord, funnily enough, and I've met with them in conversations like this to try to figure this out. But one of the interesting things we're doing, and nobody really knows what it's going to do, is the short answer. I don't know. And I'm not afraid to say that. Like, it just, nobody knows, is, as Luca mentioned, after a certain point in time, much like Bitcoin has halvings, we're going to do a bank halving. So like after 10,000 like total cards are burned, I don't know what the number is going to be yet, but something like that. Like, let's just say after 10,000 cards are burned, let's say this was originally worth 50 Blitz tokens. After the halving event, it's going to be worth 25. So every subsequent fungible token of this card that is burned is going to be worth 25 tokens instead of 50. Just like if you're mining Bitcoin, right? And there's a halving event, now you get half the amount of Bitcoin. Same sort of idea, except applied to card burning. So like internally, we just call it proof of burn, because that's what you're doing. You're proving to the bank that you have the ability to burn the card. And then after a certain amount of card burns, there's a halving event. Really hard to predict what that's going to do to the economy. Which is why I brought up my 2 buddies in the Discord, because the Blitz tokens are going to start at a price of 0. There's no pre-mine. Is another thing we're doing that's kind of fun, if that wasn't clear. So like most projects, they have an IDO. Blitz doesn't have that, right? So like you'll own as many tokens as I do when it starts. So it's like an actual like net zero project. And that's kind of exciting because nobody knows what's going to happen, right? So like, because the Blitz tokens will have their own price, but they're also to some degree be tied to the price of the cards and the price of the packs. A single Blitz token might be worth $2 or it might be worth a 20th of a penny. Like, and it could fluctuate pretty quickly depending on what people are doing in a given day. So that excites me. Like, I like stuff like that. I like stuff that people don't really know how it's going to work.
Okay. So you guys are self-funded and open source.
Yes.
I mean, that's enough for me. That's great. So when are you guys launching?
We are going to launch on Ergo, hopefully this December. Cardano ideally will be at the same time, but there are some barriers that have to be overcome to accomplish that. And then Nervos will likely be next year, early on next year. And so we're handling launch the same as like Pokemon cards are launched. So they launched with a first edition set, which is basically your collector set. Magic the Gathering does the same thing. You have collector's editions. And then you have the unlimited edition, which is the same exact card, except there's not a little first edition stamp on it, right?
Okay.
And I'm really passionate about that too, because I want to make sure the collectors are happy. Like, your NFT-like enthusiasts are happy. They can get their first edition cards. And sort of retain them for value over time. But for the gamers, for the people who actually want to play Blitz, I want to make sure that they have a good pool of cards to be able to acquire and not have to spend, $100 to play the game. The game's also free to play. So 20 cards will be available for free to everybody. And I will balance them to ensure that they remain competitively viable. And then at which point, like, you feel like the game is going to eventually be successful. I'm sure it's not going to be great at the start.
Well, let's not say
but if you have,
that.
optimism that things are going to get good in the game and like it has potential, maybe, right? Like I always play glass half empty type of guy. So it's if you like the game or you think there's potential for it to succeed and you want to support it, that's when you can go buy a pack of cards and support the game. But until you feel confident in the game, you trust me, you trust the open source, you trust the smart contract if you're earning cards, like until you've done all that for yourself, I don't even want you to buy anything. Like make sure you know what your assumptions are, make sure you trust the game, you've looked at the team, you understand the words Luca used. None of us will ever do that, so that probably shouldn't be on the list. But no, I've seen enough people get burned in this space, including myself. That,
you haven't been in crypto if you haven't been rugged.
No, and I think that's that open source aspect really helps prevent that. That's the secret. If like you want to know the secret to not being rugged, it's make sure your project is open source so smart people like Luca can come in and look at it and be like, you know what? This is trash. like get out of here. But a lot of projects aren't. A lot of projects aren't. So
one thing that you said that I thought was pretty cool too was about the game was that first set of packs, those cards, because I know a lot, especially in crypto, it feels like a lot of early comers to any project or just crypto in general like to be rewarded for their early support, and it sounds like that's a way to do it for your game. Is that an accurate statement?
Effectively, yeah, that's a good way to put it. It'd be like if you bought, Magic the Gathering didn't know that its initial, alpha Black Lotus was going to be worth $2 million today. But when it sold its cards, they made a very limited short print run of those sort of alpha cards and beta cards. And eventually the people who purchased those cards were rewarded many years later, right? Not even many years later, just a few years later, they ended up going up in price. So yeah, those first edition cards are that sort of limited edition, like short print run is another way to think about it, like the short print run of the cards that folks can sort of invest in to support the project. Or you can just wait till the unlimited edition comes out, and then if you don't want to spend, the extra few bucks to get those collector's cards, you can always just wait until the limited edition comes. And that a lot of people do that with Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic. Like that's just the way the industry works. There's plenty of people who don't even touch the collector set of Magic the Gathering, right? It's just too expensive. So happy to support either of those two groups of people.
Well, yeah, you guys really you really gave me a lot of information today. Sounds like you really thought this game through. I'm really impressed with everything you had to say today. So thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of put out there for the Cardano community, smart contract audit token community, your community?
For Ergo, I'd say definitely interested in having folks on board to do sort of the smart contract auditing. I think it's one of the reasons that, at least for me personally, it was compelling to speak with you, Jed. Frankly, Luca, and one of his colleagues, he goes by MG Pi. They're, I would say, that arguably the two primary developers of all dApps on Ergo. And there's a good portion of that in that, like once you get one of these two guys on the phone, you have the experts in the room with you. But the downside of that is, right, as we've seen many times before, if one of those experts, get corrupted, if Luca's like, I hate Mick, I'm gonna mess this up, man. Like I'm a mess that I don't think you'd ever do that. But there's very few people. Frankly, there's very few people, even if the project is open sourced, that can go in and spot check what Luca did. Right? That's just the fact of the matter. It's like if you were to go spot check any Cardano project, like can anybody really review a Cardano smart contract that isn't somebody like yourself? Probably not. Right. So, the key for me is I think eventually there will be a need for groups like yours out there that are doing this type of thing. And also just sort of some kind of regimented gold stamp approval process like we have in the healthcare industry. You get that gold stamp of approval, they say you're safe, right? And then you move on.
Great. Yeah, I think that absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'd say if folks want to support Blitz, best way to do that's either Twitter or Discord. But if you like videos, we do have a YouTube channel. We can just put in the links at some point, but it's very easy to find. It's just Blitz TCG, like pretty easy to get on.
Sure, thanks. So like MGPie mentioned, I work with another dev called MGPie. And we started a NFT like minting platform on Ergo called Lilium. So you could check that out at liliumergo.io.
Okay.
We also helped develop a degen finance game on Ergo called HODL-ERG, and our UI for it is on phoenixfly.app. And then we also started a Ergo script like consulting firm called Four Eyes. We're on Twitter at Four Eyes. And then I personally work on a project called GuapSwap, which is it's a tool for miners to swap their mined ERG with any token they want on Spectrum. So I'm currently working on version 2 since Spectrum modified their contracts. And the idea is also to help miners interact, not just swapping tokens, but like almost any kind of dApp on Ergo. They could automatically just like use the ERG that's mined and then interact with the dApp without having to like first get the money in their wallet and then use their wallet to interact and then have to like deal with like the tax implications of like the swaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely applicable for Cardano because Spectrum. Spectrum should be a name that everybody listening to this is familiar with. So
yeah, like long term, the goal for GuapSwap is to like let miners swap not just native assets on Ergo, but then any asset that you can like swap with Spectrum, so you can get like BTC directly or ADA directly instead of like the wrapped version.
It's cool stuff, man. It's really cool stuff.
And yeah, and then MGPie and I work at Zengate as our like job.
Oh yeah, Zengate's another name on the Cardano that they were at Rare. That's right. Yeah, MGPie and Luca both work for Zengate. If they're their primary smart contract developers.
No kidding. Yeah, just put out well, I did talk with Theo and Dan at Rare Evo.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you
That's great.
for all the value you bring into blockchain too. And it was great to talk with you guys.
Yeah, man.
Luca, maybe we can talk another time about some more of your projects. And Mick, maybe we can talk again after lunch. Launch, not lunch.
After lunch would be fine.
All right.
Yeah.